George Galloway, who's a very famous for challenging the Iraq War and every other pro-war deception, outspoken supporter of the Palestinians. He was a longtime British member of Parliament, and then he left and has been working as a news host, basically, and other ventures. But now he just won re-election to the British Parliament, running for the Workers' Party of Britain in Rochdale. And here he is celebrating his win.
Keir Starmer, this is for Gaza. You have paid and you will pay a high price for the role that you have played in enabling, encouraging, covering for the catastrophe presently going on in occupied Palestine in the Gaza Strip. Keir Starmer.
And here's what else he said.
Starmer and Rishi Sunak are two cheeks of the same backside. And they both got well and truly spanked tonight here in Rochdale.
You love to see it. You love to see it. An actual principled person, someone of conscience, someone with a record of challenging war in a very brave fashion, actually succeeding in electoral politics. It doesn't happen. It never happens. So it's great to see. Congratulations to George Galloway. And thank you to the people of Rochdale.
Yeah. Huge congratulations to George, who has been a stalwart supporter of us. And I've learned a lot from him in knowing him. This is something that's so needed right now, is just someone to at least be a gadfly in Westminster and to torment the likes of Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, who are simply controlled by the Israel apartheid lobby and the decaying transatlantic elite. And the meltdown is just beginning in London. This is Rishi Sunak today.
In recent weeks and months, we have seen a shocking increase in extremist disruption and criminality. What started as protests on our streets has descended into intimidation, threats, and planned acts of violence. Jewish children fearful to wear their school uniform lest it reveal their identity. Muslim women abused in the street for the actions of a terrorist group they have no connection with. Now our
Did you hear how he blamed Hamas for Muslim women getting abused? Anyway.
Democracy itself is a target. Council meetings and local events have been stormed. MPs do not feel safe in their homes. Long-standing parliamentary conventions have been upended because of safety concerns. And it is beyond alarming that last night the Rochdale by-election returned a candidate who dismisses the horror of what happened on October the 7th, who glorifies Hezbollah and is endorsed by Nick Griffin, the racist former leader of the BNP. I need to speak to you all this evening because this situation has gone on long enough and demands a response not just from government, but from all of us. Britain is a patriotic, liberal, democratic society with a proud past and a bright future. We're a reasonable country and a decent people. Our story is one of progress, of great achievements and enduring values. Immigrants who have come here have integrated and contributed. They have helped write the latest chapter in our island story. They have done this without being required to give up their identity. You can be a practicing Hindu and a proud Briton as I am, or a devout Muslim and a patriotic citizen as so many are, or a committed Jewish person and the heart of your local community, and all underpinned by the tolerance of our established Christian church. We are a country where we love our neighbors.
Right. We love them, unless they support Palestine, in which case we're going to suspend all free speech rights for them and prosecute them, which is what he's basically doing. I mean, I couldn't hear anything but the suspension of whatever's left of free speech in the UK, and just a completely delicious meltdown over George Galloway's victory, which he calls beyond alarming.
Well, speaking of meltdown, do we want to talk about the reaction of Grayzone friend Paul Mason, the guy who
I
was
got it
caught?
right here. This is
Okay,
Paul.
all right.
This is Paul Mason.
And let's remind people who Paul Mason is. He's a British media pundit who was associated with the left, who was caught plotting to undermine Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, we caught him.
Did we? Well, but back when Corbyn was
okay.
Yeah, but he was caught then undermining Corbyn, like on remember, like there's that videotape of him meeting with someone, like a secret recording where he's talking about undermining Corbyn, and then he was caught in leaked emails that we received plotting to destroy the Grayzone, speaking with a British intelligence operative about ways to destroy the Grayzone. And that's where he produced one of my favorite lines of all time, where he acknowledged that Bellingcat, another favorite of the Grayzone, great friends of ours, he said that they receive a steady supply of Western intelligence info and that they could help out in his plot against the Grayzone.
He called them intel by proxy.
Intel
by proxy.
Intel by proxy. Yeah.
Which is what they are.
Yeah.
And so basically we had emails of Paul Mason reporting to an intelligence agent, a British intelligence agent, as his kind of handler, proposing ideas for cracking down on the left and propagandizing for conflict with Russia. He put together his mind map, his infamous mind map, in which he links the entire Corbynite left to Russia and China. And then he had hoped to plan an anti-Grayzone summit with Bellingcat to expose our non-existent links to Russia. So Paul Mason is a security state collaborator and snitch, and he's freaking out over George Galloway. I don't want to see any left activists or trade union leaders dabbling in schadenfreude over Galloway's attacks on Keir Starmer. Oh, don't make Paul Mason mad. If we come home from the factory, Paul Mason's going to wag his finger at you, and you won't have your pudding. You won't be able to get your pint. This is a defeat for our whole movement, and we fight the guy now to the finish. Yes, we'll storm the beaches and we'll storm the beaches against George Galloway. If he uses Parliament to push Russian TV style disinfo, this is Paul Mason in his security state collaborator mode. We need a united cross-party militant defense of democracy. The National Security Act 2023 does not exempt MPs from its provisions. So Paul Mason is calling for criminal prosecution of George Galloway if he basically questions British foreign policy under a new law, which Kit Clarenberg and Mohammed El-Mazi have exposed and explained at the Grayzone. Just go to the front page of our site. McCarthyite, terrifying draconian new law, which allows for the criminal prosecution of British citizens if they share what is deemed to be Russian propaganda or anything that contravenes British national security interests, even if they don't know that they are sharing Russian propaganda or something that was obtained by Russian hackers. Even if they don't know, it's suspicionless. So, and I really feel like Paul Mason played a role in advocating for the passage of that law. So he's calling for the criminalization of George Galloway. This is the, professional British left speaking.
What makes this especially funny is that Paul Mason has tried and failed to run for Parliament, and
he must be jealous.
Yeah, he must be jealous. This is George Galloway's, I think it's his first attempt to come back to Parliament after previously serving in office. But regardless, George Galloway won resoundingly. This was a huge victory for him, running, of course, outside the Labour Party with the Workers' Party. So the fact that George Galloway did it outside the duopoly inside Britain is all the more of an achievement, and it's all the more why Paul Mason's melting down.
So we look forward to George getting in Parliament, actually getting a platform to speak for us, to speak for so many people who have felt voiceless for so long. We don't have a voice in U.S. Congress like that.
Imagine that. Although we might, if Dennis Kucinich wins his bid as an independent in Ohio, he's a principled anti-war voice. He's running there, not with the Democratic Party, which he served in when he was in Congress. So there's one potential opportunity.
We'll see what's possible. George really has a gift for rhetoric. Watch one more of George responding to Rishi Sunak's crackdown on free speech. This is, just something to leave you with on Friday.
The Prime Minister is saying
We're talking
that you
as if this is God. We're talking about little Rishi Sunak and the fag end of his prime minister. Don't talk to me as if he's come down from the mount with tablets of stone. The things that he says are somehow meant to awe me. They may awe you. They don't awe me.
A lot of people have just watched what the Prime Minister said. This is your opportunity to respond to what he said.
Well,
he says that there are forces here at home trying to tear us apart. He is implying you are a divisive figure. You have run an election campaign that has tried to appeal, particularly, not entirely, to one section of the community.
Who won the election? Me or Rishi Sunak? I've got the Democratic mandate here, not Rishi Sunak. He didn't even come second. He was lucky to come third.
True.
So don't put to me statements made by Rishi Sunak as if I'm supposed to be impressed by them. You don't impress me much.
This guy has spent some time today on the streets of Rochdale, and there are people who say that they feel intimidated by people like you and the people that have supported you.
I have just
and they have pointed out that you have concentrated your campaign on foreign affairs, and they worry that Rochdale will not be the winner.
That's my answer to you. I was just elected with a thumping majority by the electorate in Rochdale. That's all that matters to me.
So why are there people in the streets of Rochdale today worried?
Well, people voted yesterday, and they voted for me. Why is that difficult for you to grasp?
Why are there people on the streets worried?
There may be people who didn't vote for me who are worried, but the majority, the thumping majority, voted for me. I've got the mandate, and I'm going to the House of Commons with it.
And it's a mandate, you think, to do what? Because there are people that listen to what you say about whether or not Israel has a right to exist, what you say about what many Jewish people think are threatening
We had this
slogans.
conversation last night. Why are you reheating it?
Because in the light of the Prime Minister's
Don't keep
statement,
telling me about the Prime Minister as if he was Moses.
do you not respect the Prime Minister?
Do I respect the Prime Minister? I despise the Prime Minister.
Oh, man. That was great. It's Guy Fawkes time. It's time.
You can see why people are melting down, because he doesn't play the game. He doesn't go through all the platitudes you're supposed to go to and pretend as if you respect abhorrent people. And he calls them out for who they are. And like this reporter's question, yeah, of course, like it's a democracy. Some people are not going to agree with a politician. Is George Galloway the first politician where some of his constituents don't agree with him? Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. But as George pointed out, he won a vast majority, and that is the result of the vote. And that's what should be respected.
What's also, he has like grassroots appeal. He's a known figure in the British street. And he served in Parliament before. He has the Workers' Party reclaiming the working class identity from the Labour Party of Sir Keir Starmer, a complete concoction of the transatlantic elite with the charisma of a filing cabinet. George is highly charismatic. And so he's able to be a truly independent lawmaker and servant of his constituents. It's something we can't really have in the US. Now, if Dennis Kucinich were to somehow win as an independent, yes, that would be something real. Kucinich is known. He's known to the working class of Ohio. He was a mayor of Cleveland who fought the local power company, and the media smeared him, and he turned out to be right. He goes back decades in Ohio politics. So, maybe that's possible there. But right now, you only have members of both parties, and particularly with the Democratic Party. Even if you despise Joe Biden, you can't say it in public because they'll destroy you. Party leadership will destroy you. George is not responding to any party leadership, so he can just speak the truth. And that's sort of refreshing about a parliamentary system, as de-democratized as it's been in the UK. So that's why I think this is such a breakthrough